Okay, we're here with Senator Rick Brattin. He's going to sit down and talk to us today about the committee hearing that we had on Senate Bill 923, the Protect Young Minds Online Act. And so thank you for, first of all, sponsoring the bill, and thank you for helping us through this committee hearing that we had this morning. I guess my first question would be just kind of how do you feel about the bill, and from the comments from the senators in today's hearing, how do you feel the bill's chances are to pass through the committee?
Well, first off, thank you so much for your testimony and for everybody that came and poured out their heart and soul of what occurred in their life and how porn has been so detrimental to their life experiences. To me, this is paramount. This is what we are charged to do. This is what we as government are sent here to do to protect the most innocent. I know we're pro-life, but this is protecting life and well-being of children. So to me, especially given the testimony, I don't know how anyone could be in opposition to furthering this legislation. I feel that there's good potential for movement. I think time is of the essence. We've heard this bill, last year and several years prior. So this isn't something that's a new concept, and people have had time to wrap their mind around this, and to hear the opposition, or what little there was, state that this is an impossible ask and task put before them. It's just simply not true. They have that capability, right at their fingertips. They just do not want to do that, and that's what I'm fed up with it. It's time to do it, and the time is now. And I just pray, and please keep praying that this makes it to the forefront.
One of the things that I felt was really interesting is that there was no testimony against this bill from any of the communications companies like AT&T, but they were present in the room. And that was pointed out by Senator Burleson and Senator Onder, which I really appreciated. Why do you think that they're not testifying against this bill when they are the entities that will be most affected by it?
I think it's a PR deal, just pure and simple. I think it has to do with them looking like they're protecting porn being at your children's fingertips. So they don't want that optic of them looking like they're advocating or coming out against something that they know is right policy. But make no mistake, they may not be testifying publicly in front of people that just gave heart-wrenching testimony in favor of a bill. Don't think for a second that they're not in these halls going office to office, doing everything they can to kill it. And they're trying to twist and make this bill out to be something that is just so difficult for them to implement that this is just a burden in which they cannot bear. That's simply not true. But that's how they'll operate, as going office to office, knowing that they would have, their argument would never hold water after committee members hearing the testimony given about this bill. So that's what we're going to be up against, is the behind the scenes takedown of the bill.
One thing that I'll say in listening to the testimony today from the IT expert that we had to testify in support of the bill is that he commented that his role in the IT profession of a network engineer, that these kind of projects he often worked on, where they had to adapt technology to meet a policy need or a technical need, and that this would not be much different from what engineers actually do for a living for these tech companies. And to really more clarify maybe for our viewers and so they understand the technology of this bill, this technology that's written in the bill for authentication to occur prior to accessing pornographic sites that are filtered by the filter that ISPs will be responsible for implementing on all their customer accounts. This process doesn't actually exist, or that's what the testimony of, or I won't say testimony, but that's the comments that senators have made in past hearings, is that it didn't exist, so they didn't know how we could really do this. But the testimony of the IT expert today really clarified that this technology does exist. Can you expound on that a little bit more?
Well, sure. Just like you have a username, password for even accessing the internet. And they do it for different platforms in which you have to, give that sort of authentication for getting on that platform or whatever. They have this capability already. They just say they don't want to be the arbiters of what is and isn't pornography. Our state statutes are really clear of what is and isn't, and it also gives them the capability if they're giving a real, true, good faith effort in ensuring that they're capturing all the porn sites and one slips through the cracks, they are not going to be held liable. And it's explicitly clear in that language. But they have this capability. It's all there. And that's what the testimony really was, that to make any sort of type of argument, that it's just simply not true. It's just that they don't want to go into that realm. They don't want to have to do that. And unfortunately, we heard testimony from the motion picture. They believe it's a First Amendment violation. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is a First Amendment violation. We have a sworn duty to protect the innocence of our youth. The Supreme Court has ruled on that time again. Yes, it falls within parents' realm and responsibility, but when these providers are providing this information to unfettered to every single platform that's in every single child's hands, they have an obligation to ensure that there is that sort of filter to access. Now, if you're of age and you want to obtain that, this bill does not prohibit that capability. No matter how devastating it is to adults, this is specifically engineered to kids.
So this is really just a delay in access for account holders, that they will be provided a means to still access the content that is being filtered. So nothing is actually blocked. And I think that that's been one of the challenges in communicating to people who are unfamiliar with this bill, who are unfamiliar with the technology that we're going to apply to this, should it pass, is that it's not actually a block to any internet customer. It's just a delay to authenticate that they have the permission to continue to the site that's filtered. And so it's really a delay. The only time where it would be a block would be if you don't have the credentials to authenticate. So I think that was made really clear this year, and compared to past hearings, I think that really came through, and I really appreciated your clarity when you introduced the bill to the committee, and then Senator Burleson followed up with some comments, and I know he's got some IT experience as well. So I was really happy to see that. Let's move on and just ask a couple of questions about witness testimony. We had a sexual assault nurse there. We had someone who provides education to parents about sexual addictions through pornography. What were your thoughts when you were hearing that testimony?
Heart-wrenching. I mean, to think that we have children experiencing what they experience, the desensitizing themselves to these sort of gross acts and thinking that it's normal. And I think that's the most impactful thing, that our youth are being brought up in the porn culture and thinking these egregious acts, criminal acts, suffocation. I mean, just all this sort of just craziness. These young minds feel that it's normal. And then they're acting this stuff out in real life. So this isn't just viewing, porn or anything. This really plays out in their lives and throughout their life. And we talk about, sex crimes and abuses and rapes and all that. Well, this is fostering that in society. I mean, this is, to me, one of the root causes of the sexualization of society, and it's creating that. And this is just a simple way to at least alleviate as much as we possibly can. And I like to liken the filter. I mean, we all have an iPhone. I mean, you're not blocked from access for you just typing in your passcode to access your information. Right. I mean, so if you have an iPhone and you have that simple, 4-digit passcode to get into your information, this is no different than that. Right. So you're not blocked from your Apple iPhone by Apple because they've put on a screen to protect your phone. This is us putting that filter, protecting your child from this stuff, unless you do have that authentication code. So that's what I would like the viewers to liken this as. If you're going to access your iPhone, it's literally that same thing with pornography, kind of the whole system set up.
And I'll ask one more question. We had a witness that testified today, and she was a trafficking survivor. She was trafficked when she was 16, but had been groomed by pornography online for 3 years prior to that. So from 13 to 16, she was being groomed over the internet by porn being sent to her to normalize this violence and the acts that are seen in porn today, to normalize it so that she would not think that anything was wrong. When they finally met up, she testified that she was raped all weekend and by the grace of God was let go to go home. And when she did finally talk to her family about it, the FBI got involved. He was arrested and put away in prison. I think that all these years I've been working on this bill, I haven't really considered the grooming component of porn being accessible by kids online until I met her and heard her speak about this. And I've heard her say before, I don't know that she said it in committee today, but I've heard her say what's going on with kids viewing porn is almost likened to being molested, because that porn is creating a narrative in their life and creating feelings when they view that, and creating addiction and normalizing all of this that they see. That's really an angle I have not considered. The predators out there that are using it to groom children to get them ensnared in trafficking and sexual assault. She did testify today that she didn't even realize she had been raped after that trafficking incident, because the porn that he fed her for 3 years, everything he did to her, she had already seen done and thought that was normal. It had to be explained to her that she was even raped. And she still lives with the consequences of that and deals with issues health-wise, mental health-wise, physically, emotionally, with her relationships that she has now. It's a lifelong thing that she's having to deal with. So even though this happened 15 years ago to her, she's still, as an adult, still dealing with the consequences and the aftermath of what happened to her. Can you tell us what happened in the hearing room today as she was testifying her tragic story? What happened with the attendance at the hearing by the senators?
It was, the testimony was heart-wrenching, and the courage that it took for her to get up and dive so deep into such a traumatic experience. It breaks my heart that anyone would have to engage or even be subjected to such treatment and prolonged treatment, and just the ramifications. And to think, while in the middle of her testimony, you could hear a pin drop as she's doing that. All of a sudden, literally every single member of the committee got up and left the hearing. So while she's giving, it took so much courage to drive up here and to sit before a committee of senators that are supposed to be listening in on why we're even looking at this bill. In the middle of that, they get up and leave, leaving one senator, to take over the hearing, and he was it. to me, it was just the utmost disrespect to an individual who had suffered so much, yet is willing to put it all on the line to try to right this egregious wrong. And I'm blown away at the level of disrespect by those on the committee that up and left.
And why did they leave?
So they left to go to a press conference on a bill dealing with sex crime victims, and a bill that had been laid over. So they left the actual testimony of a sex crime victim to go do a publicity stunt of all things on a bill, and it was because of a bill that was amended by an amendment of mine that would have put a stop to pornography that's being taught in schools and okayed by our schools. So that was the reasoning behind the press conference. And I was so blown away by the level of disrespect. I can't even grasp that. I would never in a million years leave such testimony to go to such a superficial press conference that achieved nothing.
Well, my hope is that they will see the aftermath of what they did and regret it deeply. And my hope is that we can still move forward with this bill, that we will see them come back to executive session after spring break when they vote on this bill, whether it should move out of committee. I hope that their vote to support Senate Bill 923, the Protect Young Minds Online Act, will be a yes vote. This should be a unanimous yes vote to protect Missouri children, to take a stand against an egregious harm that's being done to our youth and for many years now has been done to our youth. And so to me, I'm sad that happened. I was confused when I saw them leaving and wondered what was going on. That was so important that they would leave at that time in our hearing. But I hope that I will see them return after spring break for executive session, and I hope that they will come back and unanimously vote this through committee. And I hope that this year it will make it to the floor. Last year it made it out of committee. It did not get taken out of committee by the President Pro Tem, Senator Schatz, to be put on the calendar for a debate and a floor vote. And so this year, for us to make progress with this bill, we need to not only vote it out of committee, but it needs to be taken up by the President Pro Tem. It needs to be put onto the calendar for floor debate, and it needs to be voted on by the full Senate. And I hope that we have champions like you, Senator Brattin, that will see the need for this legislation, see that it's good, fair policy, and it's not an unreasonable requirement for internet service providers. It's a consumer protection bill. Mm-hmm. And they have heard and have the opportunity to hear the testimony of Missourians all over this state, from St. Louis, from Kansas City, from Springfield areas. They've all come from all over today to testify to how this has affected them in their lives. And I hope that we have a great outcome this year. And I thank you for what you've done to help us on this bill.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this movement and at the forefront, the tip of the spear. And I pray that we become the beacon for the national movement. Yes. to protect all children across this nation. And I just pray that it happens here and happens this year. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And so if you are a Missourian, please write to your senators that they would help advance this legislation, Senate Bill 923, through the Senate this year in Missouri. Thank you.